You know, when you step into a theme park, there's that moment of sheer wonder when you see a pirate or like a dinosaur moving around, seemingly alive.
Right, the magic of it.
Exactly, but then you watch it for another 30 seconds and you realize, oh, it's just an animatronic. It's completely on a loop. I mean, it swings its sword, it roars, it resets.
Yeah, it really only moves when your cart actually rolls by.
Right, and for decades, honestly, that is exactly what it's felt like to walk into a town in most video games. You walk into a digital tavern, and the same guy is just sweeping the same patch of floor day and night, forever.
Just endlessly sweeping.
Exactly. But we're doing a deep dive today into something fascinating. Back in 2017, a couple of researchers at Malmö University asked this brilliant question. What if we took the highly complex, need-driven artificial intelligence used in simulation games and secretly injected it into a classic static role-playing game?
Which, I mean, that is an incredibly ambitious undertaking. The thesis we're looking at today, it's by Tim Lindstam and Anton Svensson, and it's called Behavior-Based Artificial Intelligence in a Village Environment.
Catchy title.
Right, very academic. But it essentially tries to build a bridge between two fundamentally opposed philosophies of game design. And to understand what they were really up against, we kind of have to look at how different these digital worlds actually are for you as a player.
Let's get into that.
So think about massive role-playing games, or RPGs. Whether you're looking at like classic hits like Dragon Quest, the Pokemon series, or even massive modern titles like Final Fantasy XV, the background villagers are generally just static.
Yeah, totally.
They wander aimlessly within this predetermined invisible box, or they just stand perfectly still until you walk up and press a button to talk to them.
Right, they are the animatronics on the theme park ride. I mean, they exist purely for your convenience as the player.
Now, contrast that with what we call God games or simulation games, titles like The Sims or the classic game Black and White. In those environments, characters aren't just waiting for you to interact with them.
They have actual lives.
Exactly. They have independent lives. In Black and White, a villager might be a farmer, a woodcutter, or a builder. And they possess fundamental needs, like if they don't secure food, they will actually starve. If they sleep outside in the rain, they freeze.
Wow.
Yeah, the creatures in that game even possess the capacity to learn over time, like adjusting how they greet their master based on past interactions.
So the difference really is night and day. I mean, traditional RPG villagers are those animatronics bolted to the floor, but simulation characters are basically like actors in an improv troupe.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, they have inner motivations, and they react in real time to whatever chaotic thing is happening around them.
And when you put a static animatronic in the middle of a grand, sweeping, emotional role-playing game, it actively limits the perceived realism. The illusion breaks.
You're supposed to be saving the world, but the world feels fake.
Right. You're playing as this legendary hero saving a sprawling fantasy realm, but the world itself feels completely hollow. The developers are relying entirely on the main storyline to keep you engaged because the environment itself is effectively dead.
Which is such a missed opportunity.
It is. And that is the exact gap this thesis attempts to close. They really wanted to upgrade those animatronics into full-fledged improv actors.
Okay, but so how do you actually code a piece of software to act like an improv actor? I mean, you can't just type act natural into a command line. A digital villager needs a brain, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It needs some way to decide whether it should be chopping wood or eating an apple or, going to sleep.
Well, building that brain requires layering several incredibly complex AI architectures right on top of each other. The foundation they used is something called a behavior tree.
Okay, a behavior tree.
Yeah, you can visualize it like a massive flowchart of logic. The branches represent decisions the AI has to make. And the leaves at the very end of those branches are the actual physical commands the AI can execute.
Interesting.
The researchers actually point to the game Halo 2 as a prime example of this working in the wild. In Halo 2, if the player shoots and kills the strongest alien in an enemy squad, that action instantly triggers a specific branch in the behavior tree of the surviving weaker enemies.
Oh, wow. So they react to losing their leader.
Exactly. The tree calculates this sudden shift in the power dynamic, travels down the branches of logic, and ends at a leaf that basically commands those weaker enemies to trigger a retreat sequence.
Okay, so it's a chain reaction of logic, but retreating from, an alien super soldier is a very specific high-stress reaction. A baker in a medieval village doesn't really need to dodge plasma fire.
Right, hopefully not.
Yeah, they just need to figure out how to get through a Tuesday. I mean, they need to live.
Which is exactly why a behavior tree alone isn't enough. The researchers had to pair those trees with what they call a goal-oriented planner.
A planner. Got it.
The planner acts as the cognitive center of the villager. It constantly processes the agent's internal needs,
Yeah.
scans the state of the outside environment, and then plans a sequence of actions to satisfy whatever goal is most pressing.
But wait, if the AI had to calculate every single variable in the entire world just to make a plan, wouldn't the computer's processor just melt?
It absolutely would.
Yeah.
So to solve that, the environment itself is actually designed to do a lot of the heavy lifting. They use a concept called smart terrain, or smart objects.
Okay, think of this, think of it's like a modern plug-and-play USB device for your computer. Instead of your computer needing to possess a massive encyclopedia of code to understand the specific mouse you just plugged in, the mouse simply tells the computer what it is and what it does.
Yes,
The logic is stored inside the object itself.
that is the perfect way to visualize it. The object holds its own interaction data. So a bed in this virtual village fundamentally knows that it satisfies the sleep need.
Oh, that's
A
clever.
refrigerator knows it satisfies hunger, but it might broadcast that it carries a financial cost to use.
Yeah.
This offloads so much processing power.
Because the villager doesn't have to figure out what a fridge is.
Exactly. It allows the AI agents to interact with the world without the programmers having to constantly rewrite the core game code every single time they add a new chair or like a new type of crop to the map. The object just broadcasts a signal to the AI's brain saying, here is what I do, and here is how you use me.
Okay, but the spark of life, the thing that actually makes the villager get out of that smart bed, comes from something the researchers call the needs engine, right?
Yes, the needs engine is crucial.
When an AI villager is spawned into the world, they're assigned 5 fundamental needs: energy, hunger, social, happiness, and work. And those needs are completely randomized and weighted at birth.
Which creates so much variety.
Right. So one villager might roll the dice and become a total workaholic who barely cares about socializing, while another villager gets deeply depressed if they don't chat with someone at the local tavern every few hours. It gives them a genuine pseudo-personality.
And those needs degrade dynamically over time, too.
Right, like energy drops rapidly during the day when they are hauling wood, but it barely drops at night. But wait, hold on. I have to look at this from a developer's perspective for a second.
Sure.
If I have a town of 50 people and every single one of them has completely randomized needs that are degrading at entirely different rates based on what they are doing, how does the game engine not just crash? Like, how does a single villager not freeze up in a panic trying to decide if they're more hungry than they are tired?
Well, it really comes down to some incredibly elegant mathematics. The planner avoids chaos by calculating a specific need value constantly. The equation is simple but really powerful. N equals weight, multiplied by a world factor, multiplied by the current value of the need.
Okay, let's ground that equation for everyone. Think of it like deciding whether or not you're going to eat a pastry. Your base weight is your personal metabolism and, how much you naturally love sugar.
Right.
The current value is how many hours it's been since you last ate breakfast. But the world factor is the context, like, are you currently sitting in a highly important, boring meeting, or are you physically walking past a bakery that smells like fresh cinnamon?
Yes, that contextual multiplier is everything. Let's apply it to a villager's need for sleep. During the middle of the day, the world factor for sleep is extremely low. But the moment the in-game sun sets, that world factor spikes massively.
Oh, so the math forces them to change their mind.
Exactly. The equation forces the AI's priority to shift. The planner calculates this math for every single need simultaneously, ranks the top 3, selects the appropriate sequence from the behavior tree, and then, well, it has to actually navigate the world.
And to do that, it uses what's called a Euclidean distance equation,
Right.
which is essentially the mathematical way of saying as the crow flies.
Correct. It calculates the absolute straight line distance to find the closest smart object like a bed or a specific tree for a lumberjack to satisfy that top-ranked need.
Wow.
It's a seamless chain, really. The equation identifies the need, the tree provides the action, and the Euclidean distance finds the target.
So we have the math to make a single villager prioritize sleep or food. But, a village isn't just one person in a vacuum. If our lumberjack decides to sleep all day, how does that actually impact the baker down the street?
Well, to test this, The researchers couldn't just use math on a whiteboard. They had to build an actual world.
Right. They built custom software specifically for this psychological study.
They utilized the monogame framework,
Hmm.
which is a very robust underlying code architecture used by a lot of independent developers. And to actually draw the map, they used a tool called Tiled.
Kind of like digital graph paper.
Exactly like digital graph paper.
Mhm.
It allows developers to paint a 2D world block by block. The resulting village looks very reminiscent of a classic top-down 90s RPG.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, it has that great retro feel. Within this framework, they implemented a custom day and night cycle where 24 in-game hours compressed down to exactly 4 real-time minutes.
Okay. And into this pressure cooker, they dropped 4 interconnected villager roles. You've got the farmer, who is responsible for growing and harvesting crops. You have the lumberjack, who chops wood in the forest.
Right.
Then you have the baker, who takes the crops and the wood to bake bread for the town. And finally, the traveler, who is an outsider that mostly just hangs out at the tavern, socializing and resting.
And the interdependence of these 4 roles is where the magic really happens. It creates a fragile, living economy.
I mean, it's beautifully chaotic. The baker literally cannot do their job if the lumberjack and the farmer decide to slack off.
Exactly.
Like if the farmer's randomized needs engine made them highly social at birth and they decide to spend half the day chatting with the traveler at the tavern instead of harvesting wheat, the baker runs out of flour. The bakery shuts down.
And then what happens?
Well, suddenly, the other villagers can't buy bread. Their hunger needs spike, and their planners force them to abandon their own jobs to scavenge for alternative food sources. A single personality quirk in one AI farmer ripples outward and disrupts the entire virtual ecosystem.
It really does. And building this functional ecosystem was a massive technical achievement. But, the thesis wasn't just a coding exercise.
Right, they had a bigger question.
Yeah, the ultimate goal was to determine if human beings would actually perceive this complex math as realistic behavior.
Mm.
I mean, building is one thing. Do players actually buy the illusion? To answer that, they designed a psychological study that operated essentially as a village Turing test.
The test setup is so clever. They brought in human testers and placed them in the village playing a hero character. The tester's only job was to walk around using the keyboard, observe the village for a few minutes, and just socialize with the characters.
Meanwhile, the test supervisor sat at a computer directly opposite the tester.
Right. And the supervisors had a hidden tool at their disposal. In some of the test runs, a supervisor used a mimic mode. This allowed the human supervisor to seamlessly take direct control over one of the villagers.
Which is so sneaky.
It is. Their goal was to move around the map, perform the villagers' daily tasks, and try to perfectly blend in with the AI code without getting caught by the tester.
And in other test runs, the supervisors didn't touch the controls at all. Every single villager the tester observed was purely driven by the AI planner.
But, and this is my favorite part, the researchers intentionally poisoned the well with misinformation.
Oh, yeah.
Before the test even started, they would tell the testers one of 3 things. They'd say, the supervisor will be controlling a character, or the supervisor will not be controlling a character, or the supervisor maybe will be controlling a character.
And they handed out these prompts regardless of what was actually happening behind the screen. They lied to the testers' faces.
Which is a pretty bold methodology. Like, why introduce blatant deceit into a computer science study?
Well, the researchers referenced prior studies showing that the single most critical factor for creating believable artificial agents is personality perception. And human perception is incredibly vulnerable to suggestion.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, by actively lying to the testers, the researchers could measure true perceived realism. If you tell a human that another human is hiding in the game, they will aggressively hunt for human traits.
They'd become a detective.
Exactly. The researchers wanted to see the breaking points. Would testers project human intent onto pure code? Or conversely, would they look at a human player's genuine actions and perceive them as robotic?
Okay, let's get into the results, because they reveal some hilarious and profound insights into how differently humans and machines navigate digital space. We are talking about the uncanny valley of movement here.
The results were incredibly revealing, especially when the human supervisors were actively trying to blend in because, well, they got caught.
I failed.
They did. And the specific way they got caught highlights a major gap in simulation. One Swedish tester correctly spotted the human intruder and wrote this exact feedback, and I quote, "Pointing its face south while moving diagonally is not common among the AI, but the player is always doing it.
I laughed out loud reading that part of the thesis.
It's so good.
The human supervisor outed themselves simply by how they pressed the directional keys on the keyboard. Because the AI planner was programmed to walk efficiently, right? It always turns its sprite to face the exact direction it's traveling.
Right, it's mathematically precise.
But a human player sitting at a desk playing a top-down 2D game will lazily hold down the down and right arrow keys simultaneously to move diagonally while leaving the character's face pointing downward. That tiny subconscious ounce of human laziness shattered the illusion instantly.
It really proves how hyper-observant we are of anomalies in a system.
Yeah.
But the reverse was also true, which is where the psychology gets really fascinating.
Yeah, tell them about the road edge.
Right, so another tester was absolutely convinced they had successfully spotted the human player. They stated that a specific character stood out because it walked on the extreme edge of the dirt road, rather than walking down the middle of the road like the rest of the AI.
And let me guess, it was AI.
It was entirely AI controlled. The pathfinding algorithm just happened to route it along the edge of the path to reach a smart object, and the tester interpreted that raw math as a deliberate, quirky human choice.
We just project so much intent onto random behavior. We desperately want to see the ghost in the machine. And when the testers were explicitly told there was no human player in the game, even during the tests where the researchers were secretly controlling a character right in front of them, 80% of the testers believed the lie without question.
80%.
They completely accepted the human's unpredictable movements as just part of the simulation's code.
And when we zoom out and look at the overall realism score the researchers compiled, the data paints a very clear picture of modern gamer expectations. 52.4% of the testers gave a highly positive review of the realism.
That's pretty good.
It is. They praised the dynamic, unpredictable, alive feeling of the village. They noted that the villagers seemed to have actual inner goals, like they would occasionally turn around if they forgot something or actively seek out social interactions. The testers compared this highly favorably to the static, animatronic towns in older games.
But, and this is a big but, 23.8% gave it explicitly negative reviews. And the reasons why are vital for game developers to understand. The illusion of a living world is just incredibly fragile.
So fragile.
One tester complained that it ruined their immersion to see several villagers wandering around outside in the dark at 3 a.m.
Which is weird, yeah.
Exactly. Another mentioned that the pathfinding made the villagers look erratic or jumpy when they took sharp turn angles around a building.
And this right here is the behavioral uncanny valley. When a static NPC stands in one place forever, your brain basically accepts it as a piece of digital furniture. You don't question a chair for not moving, and you don't question a static quest giver. But the moment you give an NPC a home, a job, decaying needs, and the ability to physically walk around, your brain instantly shifts its expectations. You implicitly demand that they behave exactly like a rational human being.
So when the math glitches, like when the algorithm routes a farmer into a brick wall for half a second, or a baker's need engine decides a midnight stroll is the most logical action, it shatters the immersion far more violently than if they had just been standing still the whole time. You're no longer looking at a broken game mechanic, you're looking at a broken person.
Exactly. Which brings us to kind of the elephant in the room. If over half the players absolutely loved this dynamic system, and an overwhelming majority said that modern games would benefit hugely from dropping this AI into massive RPGs, why isn't it everywhere?
Yeah, why are so many modern big-budget games still relying on static townsfolk?
Well, it comes down to scale. And the true computational cost of a living world. The researchers are extremely transparent in their conclusion about the massive time consumption required just to build this tiny prototype.
Right.
In their controlled study, they only had to program 4 specific roles. Now, try to scale that up to a massive fantasy city in a modern blockbuster game.
It would spiral exponentially. I mean, you wouldn't just need farmers and bakers. You would need miners hauling ore, blacksmiths forging weapons, merchants haggling over prices, and nobles attending court.
And every single new role requires incredibly complex new behavior trees and smart objects. Say you need a city guard to police the town. Well, now you need to program a functional legal system into the behavior tree.
Oh, wow.
Which means you need to program thieves who are driven by their own specialized needs engine to steal. If a thief steals the baker's bread, the baker's hunger need isn't met. The baker's planner triggers a panic state.
And then the guard gets involved.
Right, the town guard has to track the thief using Euclidean distance. The thief needs a behavior tree for evading capture. The dependencies between these AI brains multiply until the coding requirements are just astronomical.
So, the next time you are 80 hours deep into a massive open-world RPG and you catch yourself wondering why the townsfolk feel a bit lifeless or why that one guy has been sweeping the same porch for 3 in-game days. Remember this
So
study.
good in mind. Yep.
Remember the sheer volume of math happening under the hood, the computational power and the developmental budget required to make a digital baker genuinely care about baking bread and actively worry about the lumberjack's work ethic is monumental. Developers have a finite amount of processing power on your console.
They really do.
They have to balance rendering gorgeous graphics, running the gravity physics engine, tracking your quests, and calculating the internal emotional state of the guy selling you health potions. And almost every time, the emotional state of the potion seller loses that battle for memory space.
It's a delicate balancing act of resource allocation. You're sacrificing computational power for ambient realism. But the Melmac University thesis successfully proved that need-driven AI from simulation games can vastly improve the perceived realism of a role-playing environment.
For sure.
They proved that smart terrain, straight-line distance equations, and randomized weighted needs can successfully simulate a small, living ecosystem. Even if our innate human laziness with diagonal walking still gives us away in a Turing test.
It really is incredible how close we are to creating living digital spaces, yet how easily a single weird pathfinding choice breaks the spell. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there is one final mind-bending proposal hidden right at the very end of this thesis in the future studies section.
Yes, the heat mapping concept. The researchers proposed an entirely different approach for overcoming the massive coding limitations of manually building all these complex behavior trees.
I loved this part.
They asked a brilliant question. What if we stop trying to write the math ourselves and instead let thousands of real human players pretend to be the NPCs in these environments?
Okay, just imagine this. Imagine logging into a massive multiplayer game, but your only job is to play as the village farmer. You don't fight dragons. You wake up, you chop wood, you bake bread, you socialize at the tavern. You just live out a virtual day.
And while the humans are doing this, the game engine silently collects all their movement and interaction data as heat maps. Where do they naturally walk? How long do they linger at the market? How do they navigate around a cart blocking the road?
Yeah.
You take that massive, messy data set of genuine human behavior and you feed it into a machine learning algorithm.
It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Imagine booting up a future game where the digital villagers you interact with aren't just following a weighted math equation to decide when to sleep. They learned how to live, how to work, and how to navigate their town by observing millions of real human beings playing the game before you ever arrived.
It's totally wild.
They wouldn't be animatronics anymore. They would literally be digital echoes of us. It's just something for you to chew on the next time an NPC bumps into a wall, turns around, and just keeps walking.
A truly fascinating thought to end on.
Oh.
The digital world is constantly inching closer to reality, one mathematical calculation at a time.